Scotland. But we're going to talk now to Pat McFadden, who's Labour's National Campaign Coordinator, of course. Pat, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning.
Let's kick off with GB Energy Company, because we were just talking to Angela Knight about it. She was saying that she thinks it's looking like more of an investment vehicle than a sort of a delivery platform, if you like, for people to get cheaper energy. It might work to keep Vladimir Putin's mitts off of our energy supply, but will it actually make energy any cheaper for anybody in any way?
Yeah, it will on a couple of fronts. I mean, for example, one of the things that we'll do is we'll have local power plants to generate clean power locally, and there'll be a financial incentive for people to take part in these. We'll also be insulating homes at more than double the rate that currently happens because too much energy leaks out of drafty windows and doors. And then there's the investment in the new technologies as well. And you have to go at this at pace for two real reasons. The first is the price spike that we saw after Russia invaded Ukraine shows how vulnerable households are, and the bills went up, of course, by a huge amount for people. But the second reason is really a national security reason. You talked about Vladimir Putin's mittens there, and it's an important point because when you're living in an unstable world and you can see how difficult an energy price spike can be for your country, then there's frankly a duty to take this seriously. This is about preparing the United Kingdom for the future in an unstable world, and I think any government has a duty to do that.
Okay. Big night tonight for Sir Keir Starmer. He takes on Rishi Sunak in the first proper debate of the election season. Has he been being coached by anybody good? Because, you obviously be very loyal to your leader, but he's never been described as a great debater in the past.
He's looking forward to it. This is a big moment in this campaign. The two leaders go head to head. He's got a background as a chief prosecutor. Rishi Sunak's got a record of 14 years to defend. He'll be in the dock. And we're looking forward to the debate.
What's his plan of action? I mean, in terms of where does he think Rishi Sunak is vulnerable?
Well, look, he's vulnerable on both the past and the future. He's got to defend 14 years of the Tories, where they blew the economy up, they failed in the NHS, and I could go through a list. And then there's this thing about preparing the country for the future. I think the Tories have left the country unprepared for the future. And that's why we've gone into debate day talking about this energy issue. It's a glaring example of where we've been left unprepared for the future. Another one is health, of course, where if you want to maximise your workforce, get participation in the labour market, maximise opportunities for people, you shouldn't have 7.5 million people on NHS waiting lists. So there is plenty to prosecute on both the record and plans for the future. And this thing that Rishi Sunak has about my plan is working, if he really believed his plan was working, we wouldn't even be having the election now. He'd have waited until the autumn. And if he doesn't believe his plan's working, then why should the British public?
One of the subjects that we've been talking about a lot this morning, Pat, is off the Lib Dems suggestion that they would make personal social care free for everybody, and that would be something they would fund by cutting back on tax breaks that have been given to banks, etc. 2.7 billion. A lot of people are very concerned that nobody's really sorted out the social care problems in this country. You know, people lose their homes, they have to sell them, they can't give them on to their children, their families, they lose their pensions, they have to give those to local councils to fund their social care. What would Labour do in social care? How would you fix it?
It's a big issue, this. It's a big issue for the country. We want to start with the workforce. This employs a huge number of people. I think there's over 100,000 vacancies in social care. It partly feeds into the migration debate as well. And the first thing we want to do in social care is make sure it's a good place to work with good career progression, a workforce plan, a fair pay agreement for people working in it. Because if we have a better system, it'll work better. Because people are concerned about costs, but they're also concerned about quality. And I think that the people working in social care deserve a better deal. And we're the Labour Party, and you'd expect us to say that. So we want to do that. Now, it'd be nice to promise that everything could always be free for people. But we're also aware of the economic inheritance of whoever wins on the 4th of July. And the truth is, it's going to be a tough one. So we can't promise everything will always be free, but this is an important area for the country, and it's right that we take it seriously.
The big news on the front pages this morning, of course, is Nigel Farage and his announcement yesterday. Were you all sitting there cheering at Labour HQ?
No, it makes no difference to us. We get on with the job. It's a democratic election. He's entitled to stand. Anybody's entitled to stand if they put themselves forward. But from our point of view, there are only two possible outcomes on the 4th of July. One is that we have 5 more years of what we've had for the past 14, or the other is we have change with the Labour government. That's been our message since the starting gun was fired a couple of weeks ago, and it will continue to be our message between now and polling day.
Well, according to the new YouGov poll that's out in the Times today and elsewhere, you're going to have a bigger margin of victory even than Tony Blair had in 1997. Surely reform's going to help you with that, isn't it?
Ignore these polls. That's my plea to you and your listeners.
They got it right last time, Pat.
Look, I think it's an incredibly dangerous thing to do, to assume the outcome of an election with a month to go. We have seen what can happen in campaigns. Nobody's voted in this election. Not a single constituency has been won or lost. Nobody should assume the outcome. And one thing is true beneath all the sound and fury, which is change will only come if people vote for it. It won't come by people looking at polls and assuming they know the outcome already.
One final one for you, Pat. Yvette Cooper on Sunday on Laura Kuenssberg couldn't give a number on the migration figures that she wanted to see coming down. Can you give a number, or can you tell us when someone from Labour will give a number?
No, we won't do it that way. And there is an important point here. If you just let me spell this out. The Conservatives are talking about some kind of annual limit without a number today. And we've been through the thing with numbers when David Cameron said he would bring it down to the tens of thousands. I'll tell you what's missing in this debate about let's just pick a target and aim at it, which is labour market policy. Now, we're the Labour Party. We care about enforcing proper rights and conditions at work. We care about a workforce plan for the National Health Service and social care, which is two of the areas which probably attract among the highest numbers of people working from overseas. We care about reforming the apprenticeship levy so that more of it can be actually used for training. The bottom line here is, if people want to see migration come down, we're going to have to do a better job of training our own workforce. That's entirely missing from these Conservative announcements. And the reason is, you'll never get that from the Conservative Party. We're the Labour Party. We care about the workforce. It's in our name, it's in our DNA, it's in our history. And that's why, for us, that's a crucial part of migration policy too.
OK. Pat McFadden, thank you very much indeed. Pat McFadden, Labour's National Campaign Coordinator, of course.